If you're a developer who has spent, any real amount of time wrestling with Google Apps Script, you absolutely know the pain of being tied completely to the cloud. Well, today we're going to liberate you from those limitations. In this explainer, we're breaking down exactly how to bring your app script development entirely offline, right onto your desktop, using a really powerful tool called GasFakes. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine a world where you can actually use your own familiar, modern development stack for Google Apps Script. I'm talking about writing your code in VS Code, pushing to Git, and getting instant local refreshes. No more waiting around for a slow cloud deployment just to test a tiny typo. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, that is exactly what we're looking at today. So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The app script bottleneck. 2. Local emulation with GasFakes. 3. The local development server. 4. Simulating the workspace UI. 5. Debugging server and client. And finally, 6. Pushing to production. All right, starting with section 1, the app script bottleneck. Let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room here. The divide between native app script and modern development workflows is, well, it's massive. And this brilliantly illustrates that gap. The native IDE is strictly cloud-bound, meaning every single tiny change requires this painful save and refresh cycle, and you have virtually no version control. Contrast that with what we actually want: a modern local stack using the Node.js ecosystem, your preferred local IDEs, lightning-fast iterations, and local containerization. It's night and day.
Which brings us to section 2, local emulation with GasFakes.
Enter GasFakes. Now, what really blew my mind here is that this isn't just some basic proxy bouncing requests back to Google. No, it's a comprehensive emulation layer. It allows your Google Apps Script projects to run completely natively on Node.js. It brings full web app capabilities and even those UI add-on capabilities right down to your desktop. By moving locally, you're instantly unlocking those standard microservice workflows we all rely on. You get real local version control. You can integrate with Docker for consistent environments. You can finally perform actual automated testing. And crucially, it utilizes your existing appscript.json manifest file, so it securely handles authentication and permissions exactly like the live environment does.
Let's look at how this works in section 3, the local development server.
The real magic starts right in your terminal. When you run the GasFake serve command, it spins up a local HTTP endpoint that routes requests directly to your doGet or doPost functions. This one simple command effectively kills that dreaded multi-click deploy as web app step in the cloud. It gives you an instant, real-time feedback loop right there on your localhost. This essentially builds a complete architectural bridge for your code. Traditional GAS methods translate perfectly to your local machine. Your doGet and doPost simply become local HTTP endpoints. You know that asynchronous google.script.run command you rely on so much? Well, that's fully supported natively as a client-side RPC. And standard HTML service tags, they're seamlessly converted using local templating syntax. Everything just maps flawlessly. Now, if you're sitting there worrying about state management bleeding over between runs, don't. Just like native app script in the cloud, GasFakes ensures that each and every server invocation runs in a completely fresh virtual node worker. You are getting a pristine environment every single time. And that matters, because it guarantees your local tests are going to behave exactly as they would in production, with absolutely zero unexpected data crossover.
Moving right along to section 4, simulating the workspace UI.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how GasFakes handles visual rendering. This is a massive win for front-end work. If your code calls spreadsheet app.getUI.showSidebar, GasFakes doesn't just, spit out raw HTML on a blank page. It automatically frames your HTML output inside a visually accurate workspace-style sidebar directly in your local Chrome browser. It literally feels like you're coding inside Google Sheets or Docs. And the server flexibility goes even deeper than that. You can respond to custom entry points using simple CLI flags, so you definitely aren't just limited to doGet. You can pass parameters like $type equals sidebar or dialog right there in your browser's URL bar to change how the UI renders on the fly. Impressively, if you're building an add-on, you can even simulate a container-bound script. You just pass a live Google document ID during initialization, and boom, the local script will operate on that live sheet in real time. It's so cool.
Let's get into section 5, debugging server and client.
You can finally forget about scattering logger.log statements everywhere and just crossing your fingers. Because this emulation runs completely locally, you get an absolute superpower: simultaneous debugging. You can attach your Node debugger in VS Code for the backend, while simultaneously keeping Chrome DevTools open for the front end. So when your client-side google.script.run fires, you can hit a breakpoint on the client and immediately catch another breakpoint in your server-side node code.
To make this work seamlessly, GasFakes uses a really clever technical trick. By injecting a source URL tag directly into the script elements, it effectively prevents the Chrome browser from lumping all of your client-side files into one massive, completely unreadable, anonymous block.
And thanks to that incredibly smart trick, your whole debugging experience is fundamentally transformed. Your client-side files actually retain their original file names right there in the inspector. Accurate line numbering is completely preserved, so you aren't stuck chasing errors through minified spaghetti code. And honestly, best of all, your breakpoints actually survive through multiple save and refresh iterations. It's just the ultimate quality of life upgrade for a developer.
All right, bringing it home with Section 6, pushing to production.
The deployment pipeline here is incredibly straightforward. Step 1, you develop locally using Node.js, taking advantage of all the modern tools we just talked about. Step 2, you run the command gasfakes to togas to sanitize your code. And step 3, you use Google's official class tool to push that sanitized code straight back into the live app script environment.
So the crucial point is understanding exactly what happens in that second step. Modern Node uses ECMAScript modules, right? Things like import and export statements. But legacy Google AppScript absolutely does not support those keywords. It'll just throw an error. The togas command automatically bridges the syntax gap. It strips those node-specific keywords out right before deployment, ensuring your modern code runs flawlessly on the older GAS runtime.
We've completely removed the friction of the Cloud IDE here. You can now build, thoroughly debug, and containerize your AppScript projects natively right on your desktop. You finally have your modern workflow back. So, taking a look at your own portfolio of projects, what frustrating legacy cloud scripts are you going to liberate first? Dive in, set up GasFakes, and experience desktop liberation for yourself.